154 Africa concentrates on Africans here in America of the 54 nations in the entertainment field, sports, business, whatever can be talked about on that podcast. And that individual must fall under the umbrella of being African connection, directly through their parents. Maybe these people are first or second, or maybe even third generational American immigrant connection, right? 154 Africa seems like a good podcast to me. Congratulations to the two Nigerians that are hosting an African-centered podcast, Africans only. Let's get into it. What's up, ladies and gents? Social Nurse here. Well, there is a podcast that centers only Africans of the 54 countries. This podcast is in the United States, 154 Africa, hosted by Godfrey the comedian and Akbar. I'm not going to mess up that man's last name. Akbar is a former NFL professional football player here in the United States. He's hosted other shows here in the United States. Godfrey is the well-known comedian. Both are Nigerian. Their podcast centers only people with an continental African connection, immigrants, maybe first or second generational Americans that have African backgrounds, right? Their lineage is not the same as ours, right? Descendants of people that were enslaved here in the United States of America, the making of the United States of America, chattel slavery. Our ancestors were forced by law to build this country, right? So they are delineating, which is fine, that Africa 54, 154 Africa podcast is delineating, right? Africans have always delineated here in the United States. They just also participate in ethnic Black Americans, also known as African American, without an immigrant background, right? You all have been hearing the term so long, right? You know who our group is, right? Africans have always done that, but it has been okay, right? There was no pushback until these Africans, right, started verbalizing just really awful commentary about our group, right? So with that said, I looked at a couple of the podcasts, more than a couple of the podcasts. I think it's fine that they have their own thing going on. The podcasts were decent to me. Emmanuel Acho was on there, and he is someone that we recall Van Latham and a lot of people lit into him. Now, interestingly, I don't think that Africans, no matter how long they've been in the United States, will have the same lens as those of us that descend from our ancestors, right? That were, that built this country, right? That it's just a totally different view, lens, and experience, right? Although some experiences may intersect, right? With that said, again, number one, I think it's okay that they just are going to focus on their own people. They don't have to include us. But these other Africans have always kind of made sure that they have things specifically for themselves, like maybe a Nigerian scholarship here in the United States, a Nigerian pageant, the Kenyan this, the whatever specific African nation or just an African theme, event, organization, or funding that excludes our group, right? These are just facts, right? Africans and Caribbeans can and have participated in things under the umbrella of Black that really originally was specifically created for our group, right? Ethnic Black Americans, right? There's not been pushback, but I think now, our group and our people have fought for a lot through this country, for this country, for our people, right? We just have. And these groups, these racially Black groups, do not understand. And they do not, it's not like they do anything specifically that will target ethnic Black Americans unless it's some degenerate type of viral media company that promotes messiness only concerning our group. But I think it's important to know that it is okay for our group to exclude, especially things that are privately funded, right? Now, I don't know about things like, let's say, for example, HBCUs, right? Historically Black colleges. Anyone can attend, right? In today's world, I think Lincoln HBCU is now predominantly attended by white people, right? But when we talk about things like the United Negro College Fund, we know who the Negroes are here in the United States. It isn't a Caribbean, someone with ancestry, first, second generational, some African person, and that's not to be me, or some racially Black Caribbean. That's not who the United Negro College Fund was intended for example. However, since they've been coming over here, there are things like HBCUs and college funds. All they have to do is say they're Black, and there's been a welcoming of participation, right? There needs to be some things that we are now doing, focusing strictly on group economics and our group. It just is what it is. Of course, these immigrants are going to say, oh, you're xenophobic, you're making it up. Oh, no, immigration didn't impede on your civil rights. No, none of that. Of course they are going to say that, right? However, things can be done without being mean-spirited, right? Here in America, we have to think with our lens. Their lens is different. It's okay, right? I think that, for example, we've got to promote that the people that are ready to go to college, our ethnic group, Black Americans, need to really make sure that you tell people, that you promote it. The United Negro College Fund has received a lot of private donations from philanthropists, just millions of dollars, like Jeff Bezos' wife, and I can't think of her name. We know that Donald Trump has given to the HBCU fund, but the United Negro College Fund has received a lot of money from 2 billionaires recently. And you can bet your bottom dollar that some Black person from some other Caribbean or African nation are going to try to get dibs on that, right? We need to make sure that we are first in line, because some of our organizations like the NAACP, they no longer have the same meaning, right? And I'm not really sure about how much the United Negro College Fund gives to racially Black immigrants, right? But we need to stay on top of things like that, right? Because if Nigerians or Kenyans create a fund, we're not going to be able to get in on that. And they're not going to do anything specifically for our group. So it's just something I'm pointing out, not to be mean-spirited, but to show, Africans do things, and they always have, excluding our group here on American soil. It just is what it is. And because we're this kumbaya, we're all black, we kind of, got played a little bit. Because those people came to do what they wanted to do for themselves as immigrants and for their people, right? And they cling to their tribal groups and their broad national groups that, concerning the countries they immigrated from. With that said, there's nothing wrong with the podcast, 154 Africa. It's not xenophobic. It doesn't seem hateful to me. And I think that racially black people that aren't in our group need to look at things that way when they see the exclusion occurring more often, frequently, and kind of broadly within our group, right? Social nurse.